Now I'm going to turn it over unless there are any data questions before I leave. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Lorraine Bluen, Department Head of Counseling. I'm happy to be here to talk about some of the student success initiatives that the Counseling Department was able to implement based on the data provided by institutional effectiveness. Of those initiatives, we are focusing on completion, and we are in our third year of implementing the Electronic Student Educational Plan. And based on the information on those ed plans, we were able to identify students that were enrolled in less than 12 units. So just before this spring semester, we worked with communications, Stacy Toda in particular, and identified students who were enrolled in less than 12 units and had courses on their educational plans that were still open and available for them to enroll. And we sent the communication out to them, encouraging them to enroll in classes. And if they were not going to enroll in classes or maybe had questions about the classes that were on the educational plan, they were able to see a counselor to either change their major or verify their educational goal and to make sure they're on the right track. Also, through the new student workshops that were implemented a few years back, students are required to attend a new student workshop and see a presentation, and then see a counselor to do abbreviated ed plan. And then for those students who were not able to attend a new student workshop, then we had continuing student workshops that were offered throughout the semester. And students who had a undeclared major or did not have an abbreviated ed plan were encouraged to go to those workshops, and then they were able to see a counselor as well. And then with the data provided by institutional effectiveness, we are having ongoing support and communication for our various projects within the department. One of them is through Promise Pathways. We are aligning alternative placement and early bird counseling. So right now, Jani Mackay is busy coordinating early bird Saturdays for our high school students. And they take the AccuPlacer test, and then through data of their high school grades, then we're able to recommend them to a higher placement in English and math. And then for our second year students in Promise Pathways, we are able to provide progress reports for them to show how much they have progressed towards their goal, and basically encourage them to make an appointment to see a counselor to have a check-in to see how far they have progressed towards graduation or transfer. Also, we are very fortunate that through the hiring of 9 new counselors, we've been able to increase the number of appointments available for students. And so we are also looking at alternative ways that students can schedule a counseling appointment. Students can now go online to our counseling website and schedule an appointment online. And then also we are enhancing our counseling services by providing online counseling services such as face-to-face virtual counseling, so via Skype. Students can talk to a counselor on the computer or on their phone. And we also have chat room where students can post a question and there's a discussion via chat. And then also we have Express where students can ask a quick question via Skype or through the chat. And then we also provide the old-fashioned email where students can post a question and then somebody else can respond to their question. So we are providing a variety of ways that students can access counseling services and ask questions of counselors and receive that information needed for them to move forward. So through the initiatives of the data-informed communication, through institutional effectiveness, we're able to develop predictive analytics so that we can see patterns and behaviors students are taking, and then based on those patterns and behaviors, we're able to develop other programs and initiatives for students to progress to their goal. And I'm turning it over to Noel.
So as we look at enrollments for the institution, and we see Promise Pathways, for instance, we see a drop-off in certain key parts in their educational journey, one area that we can certainly look at to help maintain and keep enrollments is making sure that our students are retaining and they're continuing from fall semester to spring semester. We've had these conversations at both Dean's VP meetings at Student Services and instruction. And one of the ways for us to do that is by setting up a early alert system that can really communicate to students, can refer to all departments on campus, can provide that dialogue early so that students can do something to prevent them from continuing on a downward spiral. So we're in collaboration with the Chancellor's Office now at potentially being a second round institution for their educational planning initiative, which includes an early alert system as well as a student portal. So that communication to students is going to be a major upgrade. But the benefit of an early alert system is to really communicate, to incorporate the work of faculty in identifying students that can benefit from additional resources and support early on, and really have these targeted interventions that faculty, counselors, staff, departments, tutoring can really address and follow up with. As Lorraine mentioned, we're also looking at data analytic partners where we can increase our capacity for predictive behavior. So looking at our successful students, looking at our students that don't succeed, what are some behaviors that we can help inform and make decisions as we offer services. In student support, Student Success Support Program, SSSP, we also have the core service that we're required to provide and get funded for, which is our follow-up. And our follow-up is specifically designed for our students that are on probation or dismissal, that have an undeclared major or are taking a basic skills class. So you see a lot of those are areas where our student equity and our basic skills initiative intersect to really help students get through the basic skills sequence or help students move through the institution more successfully. And we've also modified our probation process where we're having students in their first term of probation do an online module where it provides us some information and they can be connected with a counselor, as well as revamped our workshops, in-person workshops for those students that are dismissed. And with that, that concludes our presentation. Any questions?
Trustee Archuleta?
Thank you. Good presentation, a lot of good data. And as we look at the data, and as you talked about the data, the completers versus the non-completers, I guess the question that comes to mind for me is why? Why are these students not completing? Do we know that? Have we determined the factors for these students not completing?
No, there's only so much we can,
Non-completion, I should say.
there's only so much we can glean from their grades and their course taking records. We really need to get out and use some different types of data collection methodology, and we need to talk to students and ask them.
Maybe?
Yes, and we intend to do that. We're just looking at students who had been enrolled last fall and did not, or I'm sorry, not this last fall, but the fall before, and had not continued at Long Beach City College, and we were tracking their records through National Student Clearinghouse to see if they were going someplace else. And that was one of our first sort of digs in to trying to better understand and answer that question. But we would like to try and draw a sample of students who don't continue here and to survey and or interview them, do focus groups to try and better understand some of the nuanced reasons about why students are not continuing.
Yes, I think that's vital that we do the focus groups so that we have a better understanding, because we can create all these services, but if we don't really know the reasons why they're not being successful, it's difficult to, it's just you're sort of reacting to the symptom and not, necessarily curing the actual, problem. So that's why I think it's important that we do that. I mean, I think that the predictive analytics is going to be very helpful, but I think that's something that's in the future, right? And sometimes when our students continue to get themselves into trouble academically. It's really difficult by the second or third semester, if they've gone below 2.0, to get them out of that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're going to have to focus our investigation on identifying all the reasons why students don't continue, and some will be something we can do something about, and then others might be outside of our control, but we can talk about different types of community sports that we can try to connect our students to.
or perhaps replicate what the athletic department is doing. Anyway, but thank you. Good job.
I recall, and maybe Lorraine was the only one that was here, when we did this study with USC called the Missing 68 or 67. I think somebody went missing after that, and so it became 60. But we had grant money to do that, and we went out and sought out people and asked them why they stopped, and it's interesting to see how we now have predictive analytics that help us gain more information, but as Trustee Archuleta says, it doesn't give us everything we need to know in order to help our students succeed.
And just to add to that, we definitely need to go out and we need to study why students are leaving. The key about the predictive analytics it will hopefully give us information about the students who are still here, who we can intervene with because they have either some sort of performance or behavior or characteristic that we can pinpoint that they may need support. And that is really powerful and something we have not had before. So it's exciting.
So, Trustee Baxter.
Yes, two things. First of all, I want to salute the counseling department to do something I've been wanting for years, and that is making appointments online. If you call the counseling office, sometimes they don't answer the phone. But so I'm so glad to hear that. I think it's wonderful that you're doing the Skype. I think that's fantastic, especially for people who are taking online classes, who maybe the reason they aren't coming to campus is because they live far away or whatever. So that's number one, very good. Number two, a million years ago, we hired students to call people on the phone after the third week of class to say, the teacher said, these people are not coming to class after the third week, to call on the phone and say, why aren't you going to class? How can we help you? And maybe, Lauren, that would answer your why people drop out of school, too. Although, as I've said before, people don't answer the phone. You're going to have to text them or, do something with them. But have we thought about doing something like that for student retention? Either of you could answer that. Any of you.
Well, we are working on a team approach to working with our school counterparts. So a part of this team approach would be to have a network of areas such as our library, our tutoring, our counseling, financial aid, enrollment specialists, to be able to work with our faculty and work with our schools to identify if there are students that might be experiencing some issues or challenges. How can we identify a student and connect that student with a specific individual so they now have a name as opposed to a department or a place where they're just sent to? And that's just building that cohesion, that involvement, that connection to the institution that will certainly strengthen that communication.
Okay, great, thank you. You might want to try something like Lauren did for Sunny and My Homeless Project, which is offer something. We offered Barnes & Noble gift cards to answer a survey so that they have an incentive to answer. And I don't know if they were texted or if they were called or emailed or whatever, but I think we got really good response from people, and maybe that's what young people today do. They respond to some kind of a reward.
Too bad. First Trustee Zia, and then Student Trustee Lamelli.
Thank you. I just wanted to commend you guys and our staff for being proactive on identifying the problems and working on solutions. I really like what you said about just talking to students. It's very simple. It may not be easy, but as Trustee Baxter alluded earlier, we just got a glimpse of what our students go through with our homeless students. Just homeless and student in one sentence is heartbreaking as it is. And you look at these students' backgrounds and condition, and they're choosing between a meal and an education. And it's inspiring. I don't think I could do it, even though I come from humble beginnings. I just want to understand what are some of the things that we're doing in that regard, as far as really digging deep beyond analytics and beyond studies, and actually, and this is the engineer in me talking, implementation, making things happen and producing results. And also, if there's anything else we're working on, or we should be working on in this regard, and that's with the topic that we're talking about, the 30-unit mark.
I wanted to mention also that we have a couple, two of our counselors that are focusing on our students who are on academic and progress probation. And generally, we send out a letter and ask them to come in to see a counselor, but the response is pretty low. So now our counselors are going to go out to the students and create the focus groups and talk to students. What are the factors that are causing them to not pass their classes or to have excessive W's and things like that? So our department is now going beyond the office and reaching out to the students to talk with them more about their challenges and obstacles.
Well, thank you for your hard work. Thank you.
Student trustee Lamelli.
I have a question about something about your Promise Pathways counseling. So I see here that you're, I guess, having some sort of second year student progress reports. And my question with that is, I see that one of the things under that would be a request for a check-in or some sort of importance on how counseling can actually affect you after your first year and your second year in your future here at Long Beach City College. But is that system only being targeted towards Promise Pathway students, or can that system of progress reports and check-ins be instilled in every student here on campus?
Yes, absolutely. We just identify with our Promise Pathway students because it's easier when you start a new initiative to start with a smaller group and then expand it to the larger population. So, for example, when we first started Promise Pathways and we were doing the alternative placements, it started with Long Beach Unified, and now we've been able to expand that out to our to other students in other districts. So with something like that, you kind of try to start small and then try to see what works and what doesn't work, and then expand it to other students. So definitely we are looking at, when we start with the progress checks, is to make that available to all our students. Yeah.
Trustee Zia. Oh, excuse me, Trustee Archuleta.
Yes. You know, I just thought about this. With full implementation of student success being around the corner next year, and you mentioned the work that is being done with probation students, what are we doing to communicate with the students about the requirement that they have to be in good academic standing in order to maintain their, not priority, but their early registration date? Has that communication, been given to students about the fact that they're in jeopardy of losing their early registration if they don't maintain good academic standing?
Yeah, since last year, when we first started rolling out a lot of our services, one of the major pieces has been to inform students via letters and emails of the importance of, one, having their student educational plan on file, and making sure that students go through the whole matriculation process, orientation assessment, SCP, as well as maintain good academic standing in order for them to continue with their priority enrollment based on when they came to Long Beach City College. So not only that, but it also has implications to their financial aid awards
Right.
and their BOG fee waiver.
The BOG fee waiver.
So there's certainly communication happening to students via email and letters. We're looking at other forms of communication as well as an institution, but currently we have been notifying them since last year, since fall of 14 when we were first required to implement SSSP.
And so right now, you are connecting with students before they reach 15 units in order to have them develop the ed plan. So is there any other benchmark that they have to meet beyond the 30 units, before they complete 30 units, where you might be able to provide some kind of connection and intervention? Do we have any?
The other component is identifying a major or ed goal within the first 15 degree applicable units or the end of the third semester.
Right.
So one of the initiatives we had partnered with our instructional side is on Major Declaration Day that Karen Kane helped coordinate. And that was a day where we had, I believe, 600 students declare a major, where those are 600 students that wouldn't have otherwise declared at that time. So initiatives like that and mandates from the state are forcing us and enabling us to be able to support students, creatively think about how we can engage students earlier to make sure that they have an identified major, that pathways are created for them to be successful, whether it be a certificate, associate's degree, or transfer. So the communication is certainly there early on.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions from board members at this time? Thank you very, very much for your presentation. And I just want to remind all of us that what we do at every meeting is talk about student success. And if I was Rip Van Winkle and fell asleep 10 years ago at this dais and woke up now, it is an incredibly different conversation that's going on about our students, where they are, where they're going, and how we reach out. And especially in tough economic times, and I know people don't think these are tough economic times, but I always remember that just about 6 years ago, there were 2.8 million community college students. There are now 2.1. It's not because people don't want to go to school. It's because the state's not giving us the money to enroll all those students. And as a result of that, it's very, very important that we create as many opportunities, not only for students to get here, but to get out of here and free up those seats for the people that want to be here. And so this is terrific. I commend the board members for the kinds of questions that they're asking. It's showing a real maturity and an interest and understanding of what all you guys are doing so well. So thank you very, very much. Great. Okay, we are moving on to 4.2, which is the revised policy 2004 concerning minutes and records of the Board of Trustees. The Trustee Ad Hoc Committee on Communications report was approved at the January 26th board meeting. The revised policy was submitted for first reading at that time, and the committee recommends that the board reaffirm its policy that the board minutes will be taken and recorded as action minutes, as has always been, well, not always, but it's been the policy for quite some time here. I would, does this require a motion? I think it's an action item.
Yeah.
It is an action item.
Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Kellogg, seconded by
Me.
Trustee Archuleta. Discussion. A cacophony of silence. Can we have a vote?
Yes, you can. Irma Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg. Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Great. Passes unanimously, and we are on to our consent agenda. This is items 5.1 through 5.20. Any item can be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately if a member of the Board of Trustees so requests. Are there any requests for removal?
Yes. Item 5.9.
5.9, okay. Any other requests? That one will be removed. I would entertain a motion to approve items 5.8 through 5, and then 5.10 through 20.
So moved.
So moved by Trustee Archuleta,
Second.
by Trustee Baxter. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll have a vote.
Gotta wait for me. Hold on.
Sorry.
It's not going. Okay, and that was Archuleta and Zia?
Yes.
Baxter, I'm sorry. Irma Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Then we'll call item 5.9. Trustee Zia, you've asked that it be removed.
Yes, thank you, President Otto. I just wanted to understand what work do we provide at the Long Beach Rescue Mission and the Sober Living by the Sea?
Yes, Trustee Zia, and if I miss anything, I'll let Dr. Long chime in, but this is supervised field work for our students in the Human Services program. They're required as part of the program to do field work, which typically is working with individuals who it is their career goal to support in the future. So I don't know, Dr. Long, if you want to specify specifically what they're doing, but they're out there in the field working with many of these organizations that support individuals who are either have some sort of addiction or are otherwise in need of social support. Go ahead.
Yeah, so these fieldwork classes are capstone classes in these programs. The classes that you see these contracts from are from Human Services. And so there is on-campus lecture for the classes and then a requirement of work experience outside of the class. And so the contracts are necessary so that we can have the students go into the work environment and get the experience they need right before they complete either their degrees or certificates.
And it's based on a grant that we're getting?
No, these are courses in our
Okay.
catalog and part of our existing programs.
So the agreement, is it at no cost? It's just how is it paid for?
The agreement, Trustee Zia, is a cooperative agreement between us and, in this case, Sober Living by the Sea and Long Beach Rescue to allow our students to work in the environment. So there's an agreement for all of in this case, it's these two areas, but in many of our other programs, we have contracts with medical facilities for our nursing students who have to do clinical experience. So part of it is an indemnity issue, allowing our students to work in their facility. It's a cooperative agreement, but there's no grant money. They just allow us the opportunity to let our students work with them to give them the work experience they need to graduate from the program.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any further questions? Entertain a motion to approve 5.9.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Zia, second by Trustee Archuleta. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Irma Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg. Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Moving on to Human Resources 6.1 revised salary schedule. This is an action item. The demand for interpreters continues to grow amongst our student population. The proposed pay rate increases for interpreters 1 through 5 positions will help retain current employees and provide competitive pay rates in the hiring of new employees, and thus save the district costs related to substantial agency fees required in order to provide the needed services. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Zia, seconded by Trustee Baxter. Is there any discussion? If there is no discussion, we will move to a voice vote, to a roll call vote.
Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
And Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Moving on to Academic Senate, item 7.1, Cooperative Work Experience Education Plan. This is an action item that the Board of Trustees approved the Cooperative Work Experience Education Plan effective fall of 2016. Per Title V, a Cooperative Work Experience Plan is to be officially approved by the district's Board of Trustees, and this CWEE plan defines the district services, the maintenance of records, student criteria, and job learning stations as set forth in Title V. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Zia, seconded by Trustee Archuleta. Discussion? Hearing none. When our Board Secretary is ready, we'll have a roll call vote.
Irma Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Baxter.
Aye.
Jeff Kellogg.
Aye.
Doug Otto.
Aye.
Sunny Zia.
Aye.
Moving on, still under Academic Senate, agenda item 7.2, new modified and inactivated courses. The recommended action is to approve these new modified and inactivated courses effective fall 2016. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by trustee Archuleta,
Second.
seconded by trustee Zia. You guys have got to speak up here. They're killing it.
Well, I don't want to deprive them of the opportunity.
Okay. It seems like a deal's been cut. I don't know. But, any discussion or questions about any specific courses?